Elections lie at the heart and soul of the Indian democracy. It's the job of the poll personnel to make sure that this process maintains the required secrecy and absolute sanctity of procedures and arrangements. Meet Ravi Kumar. He has been appointed as a presiding officer. The task of the poll personnel begins much before the actual polls and continues even after polling is closed. We will follow his journey right from the beginning and understand his responsibilities and duties at various stages of the poll process. Pre-poll preparations on appointment. To start with, Ravi needs to acquaint himself with the training schedule, election laws, rules and procedures, as well as his right to vote while on election duty. He needs to attend all 3 or more scheduled training sessions to understand his role. He now knows that a typical polling party consists of 1 presiding officer and 3 polling officials. For simultaneous elections for Legislative Assembly and the House of the People, the number of polling officials becomes 5. He needs to read all important pamphlets and booklets. Of polling parties and collection of polling material. The EVM. At least a day before the polls, collect the polling materials. Ravi and his team have been issued photo identity cards. The most important deliverable is, of course, the electronic voting machine, or the EVM. This has 2 main units, the ballot unit and the control unit. The EVM demands transparency and verifiability by the voter. Ravi has also checked the tags attached to the EVM carrying case to ensure that it is meant for his designation. Transport arrangements for the team have been made. They are now ready and eager to go. Setting up the polling station. It's the day of the poll. Ravi and his team, along with the security staff attached to them, had reached the polling station a day before. All poll personnel are required to be settled in their polling stations well in advance of and at least 2 hours before commencement of polls. Preferably, they should reach their polling station a day before and stay overnight. Transport arrangements are made accordingly. Do not open the EVM, which is to be operated only before the scheduled hour. If any polling officer is absent, the PRO has the authority to appoint anyone of his choice to take his place and inform the district election officer. The person should not be an active worker for any candidate. Inspect the polling station. It should be ensured without fail that the voting process is transparent and the secrecy of voting is not violated. If necessary, make the modifications to ensure there is enough space for voters to wait. There are separate waiting areas for men and women. There are separate entrance and exit for voters. If there is one door, use bamboo dividers in the middle of the doorway. Make sure that the polling station is sufficiently lighted. Make sure that there is an easy flow of voters from entry to exit. The polling agents should be seated in a way that they could see the entire operation, the entire movement of the elector. But while doing this, ensure that they cannot see the actual recording of votes by the voter. The voting compartment should be placed away from the window or door to maintain secrecy. The voting compartment should be made preferably out of flex board and of the dimension 23 inches by 23 inches by 23 inches. However, voting compartments made of cardboard, if available since before, in good condition, may also be used. The voting compartment should be at a sufficient distance from the table where the control unit shall be kept. The cable connecting the BU to the CU should not obstruct the movement of the voters, but the entire length of the cable should be visible. In case it's a simultaneous voting for assembly as well as parliamentary elections, separate EVMs need to be kept in separate voting compartments, clearly marked with bold letters. A typical layout for a single election could be like this. The poll team removes photos of political leaders or symbols of any political party or slogans till the polls are over. Also, no cooking or lighting of fire is allowed in the polling station. Only a candle may be lighted when required for sealing poll material or EVM. Arrangements for proper illumination, however, must be ensured. Ravi personally displays the mandatory notices or signboards outside the polling station. A notice specifying the polling area and the particulars of electors. A copy of the list of contesting candidates as in Form 7A. Also, attach their election symbols. Basic minimum facilities. The basic minimum facilities or BMF to be provided at each polling station are provision of ramp, provision of drinking water, adequate furniture, proper lighting, help desk, proper signage, toilet, shade for voters in queue. Who can enter the polling station? The presiding officer can allow only the following persons into the polling station: the electors, polling officers, each contesting candidate, one election agent or polling agent of each candidate at a time, persons authorized by the Election Commission to enter the polling station with authority letters, public servants on duty, child in arms accompanying an elector, a person accompanying a blind or an infirm voter who cannot move or vote without help. Such are the persons for the purpose of identifying voters or assisting the elector in taking the poll. Police and security personnel cannot enter unless called by the PRO. Security arrangements at polling station. The security arrangements at the polling station, as we already know, are also under the jurisdiction of the PRO. The Central Police Force, or CPF, where deployed, would be primarily responsible for protecting the polling stations and regulating entry inside the polling stations. They can enter the polling booth only if the PRO needs their services. Also ensure that the deployed security force has arrived in due time before commencement of poll. The CPF Jawan or security personnel shall stand at the door of the polling station and observe the activities inside the polling station. As said before, the security personnel will not enter into the polling station. The local state police is responsible for maintenance of general law and order in the catchment area, as well as inside and outside of the polling premises. Under no circumstances the local state police can replace the CPF if deployed. The 100 and 200 meter signage is also critical. It's important for the PRO to ensure that the building and the area around it, up to 100 meters, should be under his absolute control, including the security arrangements. Also, no canvassing is allowed within 100 meters of the booth. Ravi observes that one of the candidates has set up an election booth within 200 meters of the polling station. According to Election Commission's instructions, this is not permissible. So, the security personnel removed the booth beyond 200 meters. Conducting mock poll. Ravi now checks the appointment letters and specimen signatures of the polling agents. Ravi is conducting mock poll. 1 hour before actual polling begins, at least 50 votes will be cast during the mock poll. In case the VVPAT is used, mock poll is to be carried out on it also as a part of the EVM. Ask the polling agents to vote. If the polling agents are not present, wait for 20 minutes and then the PRO will cast votes for each candidate in presence of micro-observer or sector officer and the others present at the polling station. In case polling agents turn up in between, the PRO shall not stop the ongoing mock poll or restart it afresh. Mock poll is a mandatory step and PRO has to give a certificate to this effect. At this point, also reconfirm the functioning of the CU clock and battery levels. Before beginning the mock poll, first press the clear button and then the total button to show to the polling agents that there are no votes polled in the EVM since before. Then conduct the mock poll by pressing buttons of each candidate and of Nota or the BU. After each candidate's button has been pressed nearly equal number of times, press the close button. Then press the ballot button to show that no votes can be polled after pressing of the close button. Then press result button and show the agents the candidate-wise result of the mock poll. Once they are satisfied, clear the mock poll data from the EVM. After this, prepare the mock poll certificate and get it signed by the polling agents and observers. The CU is working fine. It now needs to be properly sealed and tagged by the presiding officer. The ballot unit or BU is already sealed at RO's level. Do not forget to clear the mock poll result and make a record to that. With duplicate copies of voter slips issued 1 week before by the district administration. This is just in case the voter loses his voter slip or forgets to bring it. Polling should start in appointed hour. If not, Ravi needs to note down the reasons for delay in his presiding officer's diary. There are 3 declarations to be made by the PRO: before the poll, during the introduction of a new voting machine, and at the end of the poll. Ravi Kumar is now reading the first declaration aloud to all present and taking their signatures. Next, he will issue warning about secrecy of voting and then demonstrate marked copy of electoral roll and register of voters in Form 17A to polling agents. Now the polling booth is ready for the actual voting process. During polls, Ravi Kumar now announces that the poll would begin. The polling officers inside the booth have specified responsibilities. We follow a typical voter to understand the voting process and the typical responsibilities of the 3 polling officers. First polling officer, in charge of marked copy of roll Identification of voters. Second polling officer. Application of indelible ink. Recording the serial numbers of elector as per the electoral roll in the Register of Voters, Form 17A, in the sequence of voting. Third polling officer. Collect voter slip and keep it safely. Check finger for indelible ink mark. Allows the voter to vote by activating the button on the control unit. In some polling stations, the Commission may also deploy micro-observers about whom we'll talk later in this film. During the poll, it's important to maintain regulated entry of voters. For instance, senior citizens, physically challenged electors, and women with babies in arms are to be given preference over others. Voters with speech and hearing impairment are also to be given special care. During the poll process at times, certain special situations may emerge. Challenged votes, tendered votes, blind and infirm voters, proxy voters, voter without index finger, voter without fingers in both hands, underage voters, violation of secrecy, Z+ category electors, voters or SPG protectee, EDC and postal ballot. Now let's have a look at such special situation. Challenged votes. First of all, what to do in case a voter's identity is challenged? Let's start with what can be overlooked. Provided the identity of the voter is established, discrepancies in name, sex, age, address, relationship as recorded in the e-roll or EPIC may be ignored. Similarly, discrepancy in the EPIC number mentioned in the e-roll may be ignored. An elector with photo identity card of another assembly constituency should be allowed, provided his name is there in the electoral roll of the polling station. The polling agents can also challenge the identity of the voter. He has to submit 2 rupees for each such challenge, for which he is to be given a receipt. For each such challenge, you need to conduct a step-by-step inquiry. Warn the person challenged about the penalty for impersonation. Enter his name in the list of challenged voters in Form 14. Ask him to sign or affix his thumb impression. If he refuses, do not allow him to vote. Ask the challenger to produce substantiate evidence. If he does not produce prima facie evidence, disallow his challenge. If he can produce evidence, ask the voter to rebut his challenge. If the voter can prove his identity, allow him to vote. If he fails, hold the challenge proved. Do not allow him to vote and hand him over to the police. You can also take support of local people if you need to ascertain facts. Return the challenge fee of 2 rupees to the challenger. In case you find that the challenge was not done in good faith, forfeit the amount. Also, enter the word "forfeited" in column 10 of Form 14 and the relevant counterfoil in the receipt book. The presiding officer has to prepare a list of such challenged voters. Tendered votes. The tendered ballot papers are meant for voters whose identity has been established through verification of documents, but somebody has already voted in his name. You have at your disposal 20 ballot papers for casting of tendered votes. Before giving it to the voter, write "tendered ballot paper" on the back, just in case they are not already stamped as such. In Form 17B, take the elector's signature and thumb impression, and maintain records of all tendered ballots issued. Ravi oversees the process of recording votes on tendered ballots. He gives the voter an inked arrow cross marked rubber stamp with which he marks his candidate of choice. The voter then folds the paper and hands it over to Ravi. Here too, in case of blindness or infirmity, companions are allowed. Ravi keeps all such votes and their list in the Form 17B in their schedule cover, already provided for the purpose. Blind and infirm voter. In case of voting by blind and infirm voters, allow voting with the help of a companion if needed by the voter. This companion should not be less than 18 years of age and before voting needs to give a declaration on secrecy of vote and that he has not acted as companion of any other elector at any polling station on this poll day. On Ravi Kumar's part, he needs to keep a record of all such cases in Form 14A. And yes, none of the polling staff can act as a companion to record vote on his behalf. Infirm literate person should put signature by writing name. Voters who are illiterate but can use their hand should give thumb impression. In case of infirm voters who cannot use either of their hands, the companion should sign or put thumb impression. A note should be made against each such entry in the remarks column of the register of voters that signature or thumb impression is of the companion. The last 4 digits of the identification document should be written in the remark column of Form 17A. Voter without index finger on left hand. In the case of a voter without the index finger of the left hand, the indelible ink shall be applied on the middle finger of his left hand. In case more fingers are missing, the sequence in which indelible ink can be applied is Further, if he does not have any finger on his left hand, the ink should be applied on right hand forefinger. And if he has no right hand forefinger, on any other finger which he has on his right hand starting with his forefinger. If he has no finger on either hand, ink should be applied on such extremity or stumps of his left or right as he possesses. Underage voters. In case of a person whom Ravi considers much below the qualifying age, he will obtain a declaration as in Annexure 10 from that elector about his age on the first day of January of the year with reference to which the existing electoral roll of the constituency has been prepared or revised. Before obtaining the declaration from such elector, he should inform the elector the penal provision in Section 31 of the Representation of the People Act 1950 for false declaration. Ravi has to prepare a list of such voters from whom he has obtained such declarations in Part 1 of Annexure 11. He should also maintain a list in Part 2 of the said Annexure 11 of those voters who refuse to give the aforesaid declaration and go away without casting their votes. Proxy votes. Voting by proxy is another situation. Classified Service Voters, or CSVs, are allowed to vote through a proxy appointed by them beforehand. You will have the list of proxy voters, if any, from the RO. The proxy voter will follow the same procedure as other voters with a few minor differences. The serial number of the CSV is to be entered in the second column of Form 17A. During casting of vote as a proxy voter of a CSV, the indelible ink shall be applied on the middle finger of the proxy voter, irrespective of whether or not he or she has cast his or her own vote at his or her polling station. This way, his or her left-hand index finger remains available for application of indelible ink when he or she casts his or her own vote. Electors, voters with Z+ security or SPG protectees. Security personnel attached to any person are not allowed to enter the polling station except in case a person covered under Z+ security or an SPG protectee, in which case person in plain clothes and with concealed weapon may be allowed to accompany the voter. Handling other special situations. In case the voter's name features in the ASD list, greater care should be taken for thoroughly establishing his or her identity before allowing him or her to vote. Here's a list of other such situations and how to handle them. Firstly, if a voter refuses to observe the scheduled voting procedure or violates the secrecy of voting, even after being warned by you, take back his slip and do not allow him to vote. Put the comment "Not allowed to vote" in the remarks column in the Register of Voters or Form 17A. Put your full signature below the entry. Also make an entry in this regard in the presiding officer's diary. Here's an elector who, after duly entering his electoral roll number and giving his thumb impression or signature, has decided not to vote in favor of any candidate. Ravi advises him to use Nota option in case the elector decides not to vote in favor of any candidate. The provision of Nota, introduced in compliance of the recent Honorable Supreme Court order, ensures that there is secrecy of even not to vote. Hard and meaningful work for Ravi Kumar and his team. Now the polling process is at the schedule of closure. At the time fixed for closure, distribute voter slips signed by PRO to all existing electors in the queue in a reverse order, which means the last person in the queue gets serial number 1. Polling has to continue till all these slip holders cast their votes. The last elector casts his vote. It's time now for Ravi Kumar to formally declare the polls closed. At the close of poll, the close button on the control unit of the EVM needs to be pressed, the total votes polled in the EVM noted, refix the close button cap, open the bottom compartment, and switch off power. Disconnect the cable. Now, pack the CU and BU in their carrying cases. Seal the cases and fix address tags. Ravi will now prepare the account of votes in Part 1 of Form 17C in duplicate. The total votes recorded in the EVM should match the total number of votes as entered in the Register of Voters Form 17A minus the cumulative number of voters not allowed to vote. Also carefully note that in Form 17C, the serial numbers and the total number of green paper Be careful to correctly prepare the account of votes and of various seals etc. in Form 17C and in the PRO diary in view of their critical importance in the process of election. After the close of poll, all the papers and materials relating to the poll are required to be put in their respective packets. PRO should allow candidates or their election or polling agents to affix signatures and seals on the envelopes or packets containing the following if they want: copies of electoral roll, Register of Voters Form 17A, voter slips, used tender ballot papers and list of tendered votes in 17B, unused tendered ballot papers, list of challenged votes, unused and damaged paper seals if any, appointment letters of polling agents, any other papers that RO has declared to be kept in sealed packets. The following packets are to be deposited with the EVM at the collection center: the account of votes recorded and paper seals, Form 17C. The declarations by the presiding officer before the poll, during the poll, and after close of poll. The presiding officer's diary. The visit sheet and the 16-point report for observer and RO. Besides these, 4 more packets have to be prepared. The first packet will be superscribed as statutory covers and will contain the sealed cover containing marked copies of electoral roll, the sealed cover containing Register of Voters Form 17A, the sealed cover containing voter slips, the sealed cover containing unused tendered ballot papers, the sealed cover containing used tendered ballot papers and list of tendered votes in 17B. Even if a statement or record put in any cover is nil, then a slip noting on it that such statement or record is nil should be put in the cover. The second packet is superscribed as non-statutory covers and contains the cover containing copies of electoral roll other than the marked copy, the cover containing appointment letters of polling agents in Form 10. This needs to be sealed. The cover containing election duty certificate in Form 12B, the cover containing list of challenged votes in Form 14. This is the other cover in the packet that needs to be sealed. The cover containing list of blind and infirm electors in Form 14A and the declarations of their companions. The cover containing declarations obtained from electors as to their age and the list of such electors. The cover containing receipt book and cash, if any, on account of challenged votes. The cover containing unused and damaged paper seals, if any, this also ought to be sealed. The cover containing unused voter slips. The cover containing unused and damaged special tags. The cover containing unused and damaged strip seals. The third packet is for miscellaneous items like the Handbook for Presiding Officers, Manual of Electronic Voting Machines, indelible ink set with stoppers properly fixed with molten wax applied, self-inking pads, metal seal of the presiding officers, the arrow crossmark rubber stamp, cup for setting the indelible ink. All other items, if any, go into the fourth packet. Any other papers that the returning officer has directed to be kept in a sealed packet also need to be sealed. Remember the following while packing the poll material. Each of the 5 smaller covers or packets which are placed inside the packet superscribed statutory covers are required to be individually sealed. Seal the packet superscribed statutory covers after getting its contents checked at the collection center. Let us recapitulate. First, prepare the following 4 covers to be deposited with the EVM. 17C. PRO Diary. Declarations. Visit sheet plus 16-point report. Further, prepare a total of 4 packets at the polling station for deposition at the collection center. These are the packet superscribed statutory covers, the packet superscribed non-statutory covers, the packet containing handbook and other miscellaneous items, the packet containing all other items. To the collection centers. It is now time for Ravi Kumar and his team to reach the collection center escorted by security personnel. The EVM and the election papers should be delivered at the collection center with zero delay. The EC considers any delay with utmost concern and can take disciplinary action. Ravi needs to hand over 13 items to the officer in charge at the collection center and obtain due receipts. The duly sealed control unit and the ballot units of the voting machines inside their carrying cases. The cover containing the account of votes recorded and paper seal account or Form 17C. The cover containing the declarations of the presiding officer. The cover containing the presiding officer's diary. Visit sheet plus 16-point report. The first sealed packet of statutory covers. The second packet of non-statutory covers. The third packet of miscellaneous items. Fourth packet containing all other items, if any. Material of voting compartment. Lantern, if supplied. Waste paper basket, if supplied. Polythene bag or gunny bag to carry polling material. The job of the poll personnel is done only when all these items are successfully and satisfactorily handed over at the collection center.